It all comes down to one game and some scoreboard watching. Hello, everybody. Terry Bennett here on the Lago Vista Football Show, right here on L4 Media, as the Vikings get the much-needed win against Navarro, 24-14. 2 points away from basically sealing the deal for a playoff. That's just kind of how this year has went for the Vikings. But they do live to play another day, taking on Wimberly tonight. So the deal is basically, if you beat Wimberly and Gonzalez loses, Lago Vista's in the playoff. That's the only path. And it's weird to talk about this. First off, that this game against Wimberly is not for a district championship. And also talking about a team that in Lago Vista that might not make the playoffs. But if they do, I will say it again, they are a team that could be a dark horse in the region. But first, you got to take care of business against Wimberly and then hope Gonzalez falls in their matchup. Now, to go ahead and get all this out of the way, if Lago Vista makes the playoffs, we'll be back next week with a show. If they don't, we will have a Lago Vista show to kind of recap the season, but it'll be later on at the end of the state championship games, just because we have so much to do on the playoffs with how many shows we're doing for the playoffs this year. All right, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, it is the head coach of the Vikings, Coach Creighton Phillips, right here on the Lago Vista Football Show. Here at L4 Media, we talk high school football, 4A, 3A, and 2A in Texas. We talk East Texas sports. We talk NFL, guy talk, movie, and booze. We also talk wrestling and so much more. And you can see it all on our YouTube channel at L4 Media Company. Like and subscribe. Terry Bennett back here on the Lago Vista Football Show. Now joined by the head coach of the Vikings, Coach Creighton Phillips. And, Coach, you get the win you needed last week. Not the points you wanted, but you beat Navarro 24-14. Your thoughts on the game?
I thought it was a great game. You know, two really pretty evenly matched teams. Coach Hill's doing a great job in his first year there. He's got those kids, you know, learning a new offense for the year. They're throwing the ball around a little bit, being multiple. I thought our defense really had an outstanding night of adjusting to the things that they did. Offensively, we had some big plays, had some miscues, but that's, you know, attributed to playing against a good team. You know, things are not going to come easy, but I thought the kids were resilient, continued to fight, had that 17-point lead late in the game, and really hoping to close that thing out with the points that we wanted. But either way, we put ourselves in a position to have an opportunity to make the playoffs to win this Friday night.
I was going to say, go ahead and for the fans that don't know, this is basically a playoff game. Win and you're in if Gonzalez loses.
Yep. Right. All right. You know, you hate to wish ill will upon anyone, but, you know, if Gonzalez doesn't lose, then it doesn't matter what happens here. But if Gerald closes out their season with a win over Gonzalez, then, you know, all we need is a win. It is a tiebreaker situation, but it's a deal where we come out ahead. So we're excited to have that opportunity, especially given the place that we were in. You know, after 3 district ball games to start with, 3 heartbreakers that really we feel like could have gone the other way with just a few plays working out in our favor to, you know, kind of scratching our way back a little bit and at least, you know, having a shot. You know, I think it's tough going into that last game without having a shot. You know, I'd hate to be, you know, I feel bad for the Navarro guys, but we knew this district was going to be just a big scrambled mess this year with the parity this year. And, you know, they have an off week. They don't even have a game to play, but they're watching our score. And so that determines whether or not they get to go. So we're glad to at least have some control over what happens to us. And it's produced a pretty good week of practice to prepare for it.
All right. Well, you're going to be hosting Wimberly. It still blows my mind that this isn't an outright district championship matchup because of the quality of the two teams. But as you've said all year long, this district is just so tightly packed. But when you look at the film, what are your thoughts on the Texans?
Well, they're Wimberly, you know, and I think we talked a little bit off air of, you know, what you have when you play Wimberly is tradition. You have kids that are pretty disciplined. They play hard. I think they play like kids that believe they're supposed to win. And when you watch the film, they're down and they come back and win, and they're down and they come back and they do that, multiple times throughout the season. We're getting scores updates during our games, and Wimberly's down, and then at the end of the game, they found a way. And I think that's certainly that's a warning, to any team that plays those guys, that you can't relax. If things are going your way, you can't relax. If things are not going your way, you still got a shot, and so cannot let off the gas with these guys.
Is that something you preach all week during practice?
Yeah. It's really something you preach all year.
Yeah.
It's not just these guys. It's one of those things where, if you're playing someone that, you're definitely better than, kids have a tendency to relax, and we feel like a lot of injuries happen in times like that. If you're not going hard, if you're kind of standing around, you're not finishing plays, we preach snap to whistle. Give me everything you got. You can relax between plays, but from snap to whistle, you got to go with all you got. And so, if you need a break, we'll sub you out. But other than that, when you're on the field, you gotta be going full tilt. And so when you play a Wimberly team, that has that ability to come back, they find ways. Fourth down conversions, pass interference calls, interceptions. All kind of crazy stuff. And I think, when you do things right for a long period of time, sometimes you end up, they kind of create your own luck. But they definitely had some moments that things have bounced their way in really big moments. There's always just a handful of plays in each game that kind of could decide the outcome one way or the other. And it seems like in those big tight moments, they have found the ball bouncing their way.
When you look at the film again, new team, but the coach has been there forever. They did lose their all-everything quarterback, Cody Stover, but offensively, it doesn't seem like they've taken too much of a step back.
No, I think they're clicking on, all cylinders there. I think they are missing Cody Stover. I think, they've had some outstanding receivers in the past. They've got good receivers now. They've got a good quarterback now. They've got a good running back now. But they've had some absolutely outstanding kids. And that's where, that for them, they don't have that we're going to lean on this one guy player. And so it's been interesting to see them have to play a little bit more team ball and distribute the ball a little bit more. They do that offensively. They do an awesome job with their screen game, and they get the ball to a lot of different players. They're very multiple, and so you have to be disciplined defensively to keep everything in front of you and to not bust. Because if you do, that's those opportunities that they take, and they're good enough to take advantage of those when you mess up and give them a chance.
Now, for you personally, as a head coach, how many times have you been in this situation where it's the last week and it's basically a win and go home, and you're looking at the scoreboard?
Oh, I don't know. Probably a handful of times. Typically on a season that's not very good, on a team that's really struggling. That's what's so weird about this season for us. We feel like we're better than our record. We've been in that where it's, if we max these guys out, and you're a 3-touchdown underdog, we max these guys out and so wins by 3 and this, all that kind of stuff. I think tonight's scenario is a pretty doable scenario. And for us, we can't worry about anything other than what happens on our field. So for us, it's just get a win, finish on top. If Gonzalez finds a way to win against Gerald's, kudos to them. And we should have done more earlier in the season, but we're going to go out. We're going to try to go out with a bang here on our senior night.
Once again, I want to thank the head coach of the Vikings, Coach Creighton Phillips, for joining us here in this playoff, basically, game. And I know you still need some help. I think that help will come. Gonzalez is a really solid team this year and all, don't get me wrong, but I do think, a lot of the reason the records for everybody is what they is when you play who you play. And so I think you'll see Gonzalez tonight in a close one, because that's what all these games are. But I think Gerald's a better team than Gonzalez. And Gerald's still engaged in this. They want to get the outright 1 seed. They need help, of course, with Lago Vista. Gerald and Lago Vista basically can help each other, because if Lago Vista beats Wimberly and Gerald beats Gonzalez, Gerald will have the district title outright. because they beat Salado earlier in the year 49-23, but they lost to Wimberly 35-34. Now, if tiebreakers happen I think Gerald still has it, but they want to win that outright. So the good thing is you're going to get a team that you need to lose playing maybe the best team in district, and that team has something to play for. And then, of course, with Lago Vista, you have something to play for. It's against Wimberly, and, man, we know how tough it is to beat Wimberly. So it's going to be an interesting one. Again, if Lago Vista's in the playoffs, we will have a show next week. If not, we will have a recap show at the end of the year. And if they're not in, I want to once again say I've had so much fun doing these. We've been doing these now for 4 years, I think. I'm not sure. I wasn't actually going to do coaches shows this year, but I decided to do the 5 that I really enjoyed the most, and the Lago Vista one is one of them, and we hope to have you back in 2026. But before all that, let's just plan on meeting back here next week for the first round of the playoffs right here on the Lago Vista Football Show.